Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oath of office. Everybody but me.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully perform
and that I will faithfully perform
the duties of
the duties of
the office of
the council member
in and for the city of Norway,
in and for the city of Norway,
County of Dickinson,
County of Dickinson,
and state of Michigan,
state of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability, so help me.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Roll call, Trish.
Mrs. Brew,
Here.
Mr. Kramer,
Here.
Mr. Menegini,
Here.
Mr. Moraro,
Here.
Mr. Pop.
We'll move on to the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Menegini,
Yes.
Mr. Moraro,
Yes.
Mr. Pop, Mrs. Brew.
Yes. We'll move on to election of the mayor. Is there a motion?
Support.
Mr. Menegini,
Yes.
Mr. Moraro,
Yes.
Mr. Pop,
Yes.
Mrs. Brew,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer.
Yes.
We'll move over to election of mayor pro temp.
I elect Scott Pop, Mayor Pro Tem. Support.
Mr. Moraro,
Yes.
Mr. Pop, Mrs. Brew,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Menegini.
Yes.
Move on to the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of November 1st, 2021.
Mr. Pop, Mrs. Brew,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Menegini,
Yes.
Mr. Moraro.
Yes.
We'll move on to the approval of the manifest 2021-22. Scott, do you have any questions? Brett?
I have none, thank you.
Jeff?
I have none, Madam Mayor.
Rico?
None.
I have a couple. Yeah, I know, I'm looking. I had one and I thought I marked it. No, I'm all right. I thought I marked it, I didn't, so I'll ask you later. Okay.
Reserve the right.
Yeah. Do I have a motion on the manifest?
Motion we approve manifest number 2021-22 in the amount of $982,103.42.
Support.
Mrs. Brew.
Yes?
Mr. Kramer.
Yes.
Mr. Menegini.
Yes.
Mr. Mararo.
Yes.
Mr. Pop.
We don't have any
None from last
questions. Okay. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council on an agenda item only shall do so now at the podium. Anyone, well, you can't do Zoom right anymore.
No, there's nobody on Zoom right now.
In either case, state your name and address for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. We'll move on to appointments and presentations. Fiscal year 2021 City of Norway Audit Management Letter. Welcome.
Thank you. I have not met a couple of you, so I will introduce myself. Scott Henning, CPA, working over the Crystal Falls area, and I've done the audit here in the city of Norway for 20 plus years consecutively, and we've had a really good working relationship over the years, and I appreciate the work that we've done together. I think we've made some real progress, and this is my final audit, not because of any conflicts between us or anything. I have decided I'm going to no longer do a task work, and audit falls as part of that task work. So, and I had informed the management of that a while ago, that was my plan, and I do plan to carry through with that. That being said, you should have received a bum book along with a letter in there. And rather than go through the entirety of that book, what I'm going to do as I've done for the past several years, I put together a slide presentation. I apologize for the green. I'm not totally sure why that is. I'm not Irish. But it's still clear, we can read it, and I also provided you copies of the slides that we're going to cover. The page number references that I have on these slides are referenced right within the bound book. So you see page 4, it's page 4 from the report. The audit opinion this year is unmodified. The unmodified opinion, again, this year, is the highest level of opinion that we as CPAs can render on a set of financial statements. It states that they're prepared in conformance with generally accepted accounting principles applicable to governmental entities. A single audit was not required. To have a single audit, which is some additional compliance work that needs to be done, there needs to be an expenditure of $750,000 during the year of federal funds. And we did not get to that threshold this year. This city has had that probably about half of the years that I've audited, I would guess, with various projects that we've worked on and whatnot. Management discussion analysis, also known as MD&A, is prepared by management. That is a look at the prior year's activities, particularly from a financial perspective. It's something that I did review, felt like they were in conformity with the financial statements, but that it's a document that is prepared by management. That starts on page 7 and goes on for about 5 pages. The general fund, operationally, the bar on the left-hand side of this here, that revenues, totaled $2,969,000. The expenditure bar, which is the purplish colored bar, $2,687,000. We had other transfers out, which is a general practice that we do to help pay for roads and things like that, for $231,000. So our net gain for the year, which is pretty small on that scale, was $52,000. But we did increase our fund balance for the year by $52,000. You will not see this comparative information in this book, but I think that the comparative information from year to year, and I use a 5-year look, because I think that can kind of give you a trend. You know, do you have a problem perhaps that's out there that was there? You could see that we had a fairly big fall off going back the number of years went from 700, this is 786,000, down to 421,000. That was because of a project that we had done. And you can see that and this reads 17 to 21 going left to right. So you can see the trend is going up, which is a good thing. Presently, we stand at $602,000 of fund balance. What I like to see as far as the amount of fund balance, unless you've got some particular projects that you're pointing at to take care of, is somewhere between 90 and 120 days of expenditures. Your expenditures were about $2,700,000. So if we took a third of that, we're at 700,000. We're slightly short of that, but it's nothing that I would be overly concerned about. Particularly in light of the fact that you still have your electric fund, which we leaned on again this year, and I'll go through that one a bit. Page 19 is a major street fund. Major streets are generally speaking, they're your streets that attach to another entity. They attach to the township, or around here, that's what it would be the township. And you can see that kind of bounces around as far as level goes. It's gone from, again, starting on the left-hand side of the screen, you've gone from $127,000 up to $264,000 to $276,000, and we're presently at $234,000. If you were going to be doing a major paving project like you did this past year, I was really surprised actually to see this number go up. But a large piece of that is because we transfer money in from other funds. But we did over $600,000 of reconstruction of roads this year. A real compliment to the planning that has gone on here within the city. The local street fund, which actually a page reference number is probably wrong, but it would be within the next several pages. You can see that started very small and has been climbing fairly steadily, and we're up to $251,000 at this point in time. Those are your streets that are contained pretty much just within the city. That's not the only parameter, but that's what we're talking about. So that's the differentiation between major and local. And that's an important distinction, and the city's always kept their books this way because the state mandates that you report the activities, major and local streets. Going to page 71 of the report, these now are called what are referred to non-major governmental funds, and those are all aggregated, and then they're carried forward in total of these next 4 or 5 funds that I'm going to cover, and that's what comes into the actual financial statements, is just the totals, but I've given you the detail in there also. So if you look at page 71, you'll see the DDA, and we did some additional spending this year. I just heard Scott and some of the staff talking about the lights that are out there, and they had worked on the parks, so there was some spending that was done there, and the fund balance, which had cruised along at about $250,000, fell to $188,000 during the year. Nothing to be concerned about, but it's what you want to do. That's how you provide services. It's going to spend some money.
Scott, could you just explain a little bit too? If we didn't have the downtown development, this is not money that we would receive.
You would have a portion of that, because a portion of that comes from your general fund, but you're right, there would be money, because you're capturing dollars that would belong to other governmental entities by having the DDA, which helps you pay for, you've been paying for road bonds and some things within the DDA, and you clearly would not have had as much opportunity for that. The Fire Protection Fund, you can see that that is actually got a relatively small number. It dropped down a little bit, but we had the fundraising of the firemen included in there for a number of years. The city actually a year ago has that separation now, and the firemen operations are their fundraising and their, I'll say, fun things that they do are in a separate entity. Now, this is dollars that are for fire prevention, plus the money that's raised for fireworks is what's included in that fund. The museum, again, the size of the bars here, this scale changes as I had prepared the slide, so keep that in mind. You can see the museum had gone along fairly steadily for the first 3 years or thereabouts at $58,000. It jumped to $60,000 and now to $68,000. And that's a real credit to that organization because we all know with COVID there wasn't a whole lot of visitation going on that museum or any other one. Debt service, the next fund is going to have should have a zero fund balance pretty much in it. We transfer money in there, we pay the debt. So we're bringing money in, it either comes from one of the utility funds or it comes from the general fund, the DDA, but those dollars are captured in there and we then actually make the debt payments with those. So don't be alarmed by the fact that there's no fund balance in there, it's the moral of the story. Capital projects, that one has fallen off, and you'll see with your capital projects funds, if I went back a few more years, you would see ups and downs in this. And you have worked on several capital projects. The largest one most recently be your Strawberry Lake project. And so as you consume those dollars, obviously the fund balance goes down. So we're presently at $9,000 of fund balance in the capital projects funds. Okay, now I'm switching back to page 21, which is the communications, used to be known as TV, phone, and internet. And you can see if you go back to 2017, we were actually negative. And this is in total net position, which I choose to, when I do my presentations, to give you numbers that are something you can control. Unrestricted net position is kind of the cash flow, if you will, of that fund. It doesn't include all of the phone lines, all of the modems, stuff that you're not going to use, people pay bills. Clearly, they're assets of the fund, and they are reported in the book. But what you're looking at here is the cash flows of that fund.
Are the P&L statements in the book for each group?
Yes. Yep. So you can see it was down, we came up, and we're presently at a peak from where we've been. We're at $161,000 presently. That is a fund that you will want to keep an eye on in the future, just because technology changes so quickly in that particular fund. And TV a few years ago was really a big deal here. I mean, now with the internet service and streaming and whatnot, it's that's something you'll want to consider as you do expenditures as you head into the future.
And the pricing of us to get the networks to come in. Every year it's going up and up,
Yes.
more of a percentage.
Yeah, absolutely. The electric fund, this continues to be the champion fund of the city, and will for the foreseeable picture. You can see these are, the scale is $0 to $3 million. So if you look at that going back in time, to 2017, we were at 2 million, almost 2 million 3, we went to 2 million 6, 2 million 1, 2 million 8, and now we're at 190, or excuse me, $1,900,000. And the primary reason for that is we transferred a fairly substantial amount of money out of our electric fund this year to help pay for the road projects. We spent almost $1 million on road projects. That funding needed to come someplace. You could have went out and borrowed it, but you had it accessible to you. You did the right thing, and at least that's my opinion.
Thank you, Scott. We appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. There continues, again, this is your spendable cash that you got in that fund. So there's still a substantial amount of assets within there. The water utility, you can see again going back to 2017, we were upside down, and that has recovered fairly nicely. Not huge numbers in there, but excluding the project, and if you're going to do a project, you're probably going to borrow for it. The manager and I have had conversations over the years as to, does it make sense to borrow money when you do one of these projects? And I think he and I are in agreement, and he can correct me if we're not, that it makes sense to borrow money for this, because then the people that are paying for the upgrade are the people that are benefiting from it. Makes good sense to me.
Plus you have an 80 to 100-year asset
Yes.
that you're working with. It's not like roads that are 15 years.
Right.
It's a very long asset.
Very low interest rates.
Very low interest.
Yes. Yeah, very, very attractive. Sewer utility or wastewater, you can see we were upside down. That one has fallen off a little bit. We had done some recovery, we did some borrowing and whatnot. Did some pretty substantial upgrades within that fund here over the past few years, and that number presently sits at $227,000. That's a somewhat comfortable number, but not great. That's another fund. I mean, I've spent substantial time talking with management about this. I know that Ray has talked to me at length about ways to make changes within that department. I know the staffing has been addressed already. You got a retirement of the lead operator, the department head, and some splitting of jobs and whatnot. So I think there has been really a lot of attention paid here, but that happens to be a very difficult fund to continue to make money at. You need to watch your expenditures and then obviously watch your revenues accordingly.
I think isn't it in both the water and sewer, we have the 2017, which shows the you said we're underwater,
Yes.
but I believe that a lot of that was accrued as large RD projects that we had. The multi-year doing the revenue and the expense.
That's correct. We did a lot of the planning in that 2017 year, which created it as an expense. And then once we started doing the project, it becomes an asset as opposed to just a flat expenditure of the money. Just in summary of the various pages, financial performance, as I stated, the general fund went up $51,500. During the year, the major street fund saw an increase of about $37,000. The local street fund went up $74,000. The other governmental funds, that's that aggregated funds that are on page 71, you can see that one dropped by about $60,000. Communications saw an increase of $75,000. Electric saw the decrease of almost $500,000. And again, that's primarily attributable to the transfers out of that fund to to help pay for these streets. The water, decreased $15,000, that's pretty much break even. Sewer saw a decrease of $77,800. We have depreciation that's larger than those numbers, so we actually picked up positive cash flow during the year on both of those last two utilities, but they're still on a long-term basis. We want to keep an eye on particularly that sewer fund.
Didn't we have a one-time retirement expense in sewer though in last fiscal year?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Do you know what the transfer was from the electric fund to the streets?
950,000.
We
The
added,
streets, that was for the project, right?
yeah, we added stuff on.
Yeah, I think it was like 900. Oh, no, maybe it was 600.
815,000.
815.
815, yeah.
Yeah.
We were
Thank
talking
you.
6 at one time, guys.
Yeah.
And then remember we had those add-ons because
Yeah.
Block will give us such a good deal on the asphalt.
Blacktop
Yeah.
prices.
If you look at page 66 of your report, now you don't have to look at it, but that's where this information is from. Talking about your pension plan, I spent a goodly amount of time over the past several years talking about your MERS plan. And I've also spent a goodly amount of time talking with management about your MERS plan. The investment return showed a nice return this year. Ooh, second year in a row. Problem is, if you go back to the third year, they lost money that year, which again, just befuddles my mind, but I give them credit. Hopefully, this is a long-term trend that, not optimistic, but that we can continue seeing those rates of return, because then that's money that we don't have to take out of our taxes or out of our various funds to fund up that plan. So that's.
Could you explain a little bit more for people that don't understand that, where that's coming from, the debt from the MERS?
Yes, there was, well, we've had a MERS plan here going back forever. Probably not forever,
A long
but certainly since I've been auditing here for 20 plus years.
1960s, I think.
Pardon me?
I think we entered it in the 60s.
Yeah, and then there were enhancements made to that plan over the years where we wanted to give folks the opportunity to retire early, those kinds of things. There's costs that are associated with that. So after all this, and then MERS initially in most cities was put in place as, I call it the military retirement system. Wages were relatively low in the city, but there was a nice retirement benefit when you got to the end. Okay, over the years, we've taken our wages and caught up with where we're at from that, and associated with that, because MERS is a function of what's called final average compensation. So these lower years that were at the beginning, we're going to not consider those. We're going to consider the larger years, which are generally their most recent years. So that those things all attributed together, you put those together and it created a larger liability. Okay? And then what MERS does, and they're required to under the statutes, is to go out and get an actuarial valuation done. That actuarial valuation determines how much money you need to contribute to the plan. Okay, and they had, and I'll use the example of 3 years ago. They had projected that we were going to earn on the plan, I believe that year was 8%. So if you take the assets of $9 million, roughly,
120. They lost 7%, 7.5%.
yeah. So
15.5% flip.
yeah, and when you do that, okay, then where's that money going to come from? Because now it's never going to be there. So So then you end up picking up more money for the ensuing years to help catch up to that. You've got a little bit of that, but it doesn't.
And you never catch up. That's the
You
problem.
think that's exactly right. You don't get there. Yes.
But the problem, this is what I've been arguing about for you know how long, is that they tell us 7.5%, 7, 8%, and then it flips. Well, our payment is based on them making 8%,
Right.
and then they lose 8%. So we go even double in reverse.
Yes.
And then they blame that we're not doing our job. And I'm gonna get on soapbox, so I'm gonna stop, but that's been my argument for 15 years.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it was like for a number of years, and I've got another client that has a private pension plan, a little bit different than MERS, but falls under the same rules. Their investment folks have routinely, even in bad years, made well over 8% every year.
Even in bad years.
Pardon me?
Even in bad years.
Yes, even in bad years. And in some years, we're looking at 20 plus. Well, that helps cover for those not so good years. We hadn't seen that in MERS. To their credit, these last 2 years have been good years for them.
Thank God, because they had, in the last 6 years, they had 2 losers.
Yes.
15 was probably 6.25%
Yep.
loss.
Yeah. So they have not, MERS in the long run, had not performed well. I don't know what changes they made. I assume there were some because they're making money now where they hadn't been. But this comes down to how are you investing money is really the long and short of it. Not you guys. That's a MERS function.
Right.
We send them the money. It's their job to invest and make more money with our money.
Right, and that's when I was gonna make a statement. It's no fault of who's running the city, it's no fault of the employees.
That's correct.
It's
Or this council or anyone here.
yeah, or any councils before us.
Yes.
Thank you, Scott.
You bet. The market value of the assets actually, at the end of the year was $9.9 million. The actuarial number that they're using is $9.6 million. They use a 5-year rolling average. So we were funding the equivalent of an additional $300,000 because they're not giving us credit for all of the assets that we actually have in the plan. Which to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's the rules that they need to, at least that they've adopted. I shouldn't say they have to do that, but that's what they've done. The additional shortage is not included. That's what I just talked about a little bit. OPEB has other post-employment benefits. That's health insurance for retirees. We get an actuarial report. It's not a full-blown actuarial. It's what's called the alternative calculation. And that actually saw a decrease, the underfunding, which is good. The underfunding is going down from almost $600,000 to about $400,000. So conversely, to MERS, they made a bunch of money for you guys with a relatively small pool of money. The trust fund where you have those dollars sitting. So
they did their job.
That's correct. Yeah, they did what you paid them to do.
Yeah, we were able to shop and we found this organization, so it's a little different than MERS where we went to go to the shop. So
Imagine
That helps.
So the underfunding on your MERS did go up, but it went up at a lesser pace than where you had been. And the OPEB underfunding actually decreased by $160,000. So those are both positive things. The fact that MERS is still continuing to rise is not good, but the OPEB number going down is good, and that MERS is the underfunding, the rate of that increase that we've had, which is bad, has slowed. So that's a good thing.
So Scott, you're telling me the first 300 grand of that 700,000 is just the way MERS reports things?
That's correct.
So basically, they're taking 3+%. They're only giving us less than 97% of our fund equity.
Yes,
Of our fund equity.
That's correct.
Why?
what they've said is that when we look at a pension plan, you look at it over the long run. So what they're doing is, instead of saying, okay, here's the assets, what they're doing is they're saying, what were the assets here compared to last year, the year before, using a 5-year look. And that's where you're getting shorted that $300,000 when you calculate that out.
300,000 here and 300,000 there, pretty quick, you're talking about real money, hey?
Yes, for sure, especially in those, you know, in the pension plan, you're talking about literally, you know, $10 million in assets and substantially higher than that in liability. Letter of comments and recommendations, which actually I did not even issue you a formal letter of comments and recommendations the way I'd like normally. This is the second year in a row that has happened. There were no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and those two terms are defined in governmental accounting standards. There were no material non-compliance findings, and there were no other matters. I'll talk about one here in a minute that I talked to with management about, but none that needed to be reported at the level to where it goes to the state of Michigan or other regulatory agencies.
And hats off to our people who work on this and,
Absolutely, it is extremely rare. As a matter of fact, it's happened 4 times in my audit career, twice here the last 2 consecutive years, that we have not had audit findings. That's
Kudos to Ray and his staff, great job, guys.
and Mary's not here, but I'm gonna tell you, a big thank you to Mary. She's done a wonderful job for us for years.
You got big shoes to fill, Lisa.
I did have a discussion with management while we were here, actually during our exit conference. And we've talked at different times over the years about adopting a policy that places all qualifying delinquent properties. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. On the tax roll twice a year, because you send no taxes twice a year. So if you have somebody that hasn't paid their property tax, hasn't paid their utility bill, what we would do is take that and add it on to their property tax bill. Okay, but there's some definitions that are out there that you're going to need grants help with. You know, the bill has to be, for instance, the bill has to be at least 6 months old. Okay, and when you start measuring the 6 months old from when you go, for instance, if we were putting on the December bills that are going to be coming out here shortly, so do they have to go back before May in order to put them on there? Can we use June? You know, those are things that need to be worked out. And that's why this is managerial, but I would recommend that you work with your attorney to develop that definition within the policy and then do it for all of them.
Didn't we talk about that last year too?
We've talked about it a couple of times, but I just, especially for the folks that are new to the board, there are some provisions that are defined by the state, like the 6-month requirement. This was done this year. We did put them on the tax bills for I believe it was the summer roll, but it wasn't done on the other roll. My recommendation is that we do both of them. It's a great collection tool. And the reason for that is the county is buying your delinquent real property taxes, and that's what we're talking about, including the delinquent utilities. So you at that point in time are ready to pay.
So now we also have an agreement with Norway Township that through our water and sewer, that they also would do the same to help us collect those utilities. So they would actually pay that debt, and then they would put that on their taxes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was my next question. What about the landlords?
Landlords are going to complain. And there are some provisions for them to be able to, to work around this. There's a written form where they can basically pass that. But you can bet that if a landlord's not getting paid for 6 months, they're chasing somebody out of their property. So why should the other residents of the city subsidize that landlord. And so I would offer to you, are you gonna get those complaints? You are, for sure. That's why you need to get the policy in place. You know, you're gonna take it. I would assume that at the meeting that you actually get ready to adopt this, you're gonna see some landlords here. They will be having discussion with you about that, but I see no particular good reason why the other citizens of the city of Norway should subsidize those folks that have rental properties. Doesn't make sense. Debt schedule, the last page of the, and I could put this up if you would like, it's really hard to read, of the slides that I gave you. I think it's the last page. This is an overall debt schedule of the city, of the long-term debt, not every individual bill and whatnot. But these are, this is the bonded debt, as well as the pension and the OPEB liabilities, the annual payments. I would like to highlight three things in particular. First of all, the city hall was paid off in full this past year during this audit period. That's $85,000 that you paid out last year that you're not going to pay out this year. You also paid off your street improvement bonds. That's $70,000 that was paid out. That's no longer going to be paid out. And if you look down in the lower portion, the number's smaller, but there is a WPPI. Actually, it was an interest-free loan that had come through WPPI. That one will be paid off this year. And I offer this schedule to you, as I've done several times in the past, just to give you a feel for what's there. As I stated earlier in the meeting, the manager and I have had conversations about sometimes referred to as good debt, bad debt, not bad that it's uncollectible, but should you have it, the revenue bonds / loans that are there, I think those are appropriately set. Because the people that are getting the benefit from them are paying for them. Not that, for instance, the fire hall, that's going to be paid off in a few years here. Not that everyone's not getting benefit from that, and that's why it falls in as a general obligation of the city itself. DPW trucks, on the Golf Commission one, the Golf Commission is actually making that payment. That was an agreement that we had with them, and with the bank, that they would make that payment until it's completely extinguished. So I just wanted to show that as well. And with that, what I've done with these slides is try and capture what I feel is important, plus give you that comparison information that's not in the book. And if you have any questions.
Scott, just to piggyback on what Candy went back to the pension thing, so just an explanation to everybody listening, what underfunded pension liability is. And after looking at this page here, I believe it's, the fund made $700,000 last year.
Yes.
We owed 1.4 million. That's the $700,000 of underfunded pension liability, correct?
Well, no.
Okay.
The payments that went in there, that number of what's going in there is the earnings plus the contributions from the city.
Okay.
Plus the contributions from employees.
Okay.
Okay, so those are the three primary funding sources coming into the pension plan. So the city is putting in round numbers $1 million. Okay, last year they made 6, I know that. investment income, 1.1 million, $1.3 million they made last year. That's what they are. Okay, and that's exclusive of what the city put in there. When you look at this schedule, it doesn't flow real well because I didn't want to show it as new debt on there, so I added some numbers.
Okay.
But the underfunding remains at nearly $13 million. It's a big number.
Any other questions for Scott? Scott, I want to thank you. It's been a pleasure the years I've been here working with you. You've done a great job for us. I think our employees would say the same thing, and we truly are going to miss you.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I have enjoyed working here as well. I think you have a extremely competent and conscientious staff. And have been, I would include Mary in truly with that. We've worked hand in hand with many different topics over the years with the manager and whatnot. And it's not everywhere that you can come in there and you can really sit down and hash through an issue and it may not be a real a recommendation that you like, but it's one that needs to happen. And I see that here over and over. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank
Scott.
you.
Thank you very much. Good luck to you in your future endeavors.
Thank you very much.
We'll move on to communications. Resolution 2021-29, fiscal year 2021, City of Norway Audit Management Letter. Do I have any questions? If not, do I have a motion?
Make a motion that resolution 2021-29 be approved.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Magini?
Yes.
Mr. Moraro?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Booth?
Yes. Move on to resolution 2021-30, general utility service rate resolution, fiscal year 2021-22, Mr. Anderson.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. Coming up in the next couple of months, we're going to be revisiting our utility rate resolution, as we do now every year come January and into February, mainly dealing with the television rates. That's the year that found that we cannot adequately, or we shouldn't adequately deal with the rates just in July, and because most of our television subscriber fees go up through into January and by the end of January. And as I put in my memo, those fees could go up anywhere from 15 to 40% on an annual basis. And those are real numbers. Those aren't numbers that we're just making up or throwing out there. So it is something we're going to have to address. Now, the reason I'm bringing it up right now is that we did notice through our initial evaluation that there was something that we needed to address immediately, and that's in the internet rate and how we're applying our rate. In our tier 4, where we have a 500 meg service, we have a 50 meg up. Well, we need to make that 40 meg. We could do the typical up to, but our equipment is based where we are more comfortable saying that we'll meet the 40 meg. And so we want to revise that, just the language on that to show 40 meg up. Also on the internet, we had a set of bundled pricing. Originally, we put that together to make it easier for the customers to figure out when they bundle packages. And what we mean by bundling is if you get, we basically have the 3 services. We have phone, internet, and television. And if you take all 3, you get a $10 discount. If you take 2 of the 3, you get a $5 discount, and that's called bundling. And then we have 5 different internet packages and a couple different TV packages, and so, you know, it becomes very complicated on what the pricing is, and so we said, well, let's put those out there for people so that they can see what the rate is, and what ended up happening is it just got to be too cumbersome, and the rates, it was better to just have a statement. And so what we did was we replaced all the language of the rates with just a simple statement. I think you know, Lisa came to me and she's like, you know, people are pointing out that some of these are wrong, that we haven't kept up with a couple of them, and it's one of those situations where there's too many combinations that we're better off to leave out the combinations and just do the $5, $10 explanation. On the administrative fees, since we have the marijuana application fees now, I went ahead and put those in the application schedule. And then also on the administrative fees, since we have been talking about this vendor peddler permit situation, I did a bunch of conversation. We haven't finalized the language of the ordinance. Councilmember Marrero has been active with us on those conversations, and we really appreciate that, along with Mayor Brew. And one of the things that I thought we'd do is, in those conversations, especially with other communities, we don't have our time frame scheduled, but the numbers that we used for a daily, you know, a permit, and then a monthly permit and a 3-month permit, those all seem to be pretty market, you know, going out to other communities. And so we could use those combinations. And so I put those in here, suggesting putting those in here because, you know, we had a conversation about whether or not we could go out to 3 months. So that's still under discussion. But, you know, that's with the monthly rate, that was what we saw in market. So anyway, I threw it out there for your consideration within this, and looking for your feedback, and hopefully we can move this resolution forward.
We can move it forward, whether we do a 1 month, 3 month.
Well, if you want to wait on that, we can just scratch it. I mean, we can approve it, and we'll just keep it back at the $20, because our normal rate right now is $20, and then it's a no fee for nonprofits. So we've kept that. So all we would do is we just wouldn't add that to this resolution, and we could get forward. That would be no problem.
Or do you want us to vote on it?
Well, if you're comfortable with that, and we just move the language of the ordinance with that.
The ordinance isn't baked yet, so I don't think it matters if we approve this or not at this point, because, you know, we're still changing.
You just keep it, if you want to, you can keep the $20, regular $20 fee, because we are gonna have to update our vendor peddler ordinance along with the mobile food ordinance. I mean, that's still gonna have to get updated anyway.
Correct. So I'm good with, yeah, I think we can safely just move this forward.
Yeah.
You wanna scratch that, or you wanna just
Before we change it later, if we have to.
Yeah.
Or remove it. It's okay, you can, yeah.
Is everybody else all right with that?
Yeah. That's pretty standard, rate?
Yeah.
For the 1 month and 3 month?
Oh, if they start tacking on month by month, then it gets to be more.
Yeah.
Or rather than go to an annual, some that were going to an annual, they like the idea of not going to an annual, similar to what we talked about. And having them come back, and then those fees get higher, because the arguments are all the same in every community.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So.
Any other questions?
Some of the stuff that we got in here, I mean, really, we can have it.
Like,
Failure to set brakes. Turning your wheel towards a curb.
Oh, those are all on the.
Do we write tickets on them often?
No, but they're all out of the code.
Just
you know,
curious.
traffic.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I seen that.
For the record, I taught all my student drivers to turn their wheels.
Really?
Really? Yes. And less parking uphill with a curb, then you point your tires away. Well, that too, that too.
So following approval of this resolution, we're gonna turn it over to Councilman Mangini, and he can go through it, make sure we're
No.
set.
Yes.
Do I have a motion?
I motion general utility and service rate resolution for fiscal year 2021-22, revision 1 be approved.
Support.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Marraro?
Yes.
Mr. Pop? Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
And then I would like to say that we will be back revisiting that
Yes.
again, because in January, we're gonna find out how much percentage the TV will be going up.
Yeah, so
And
it's
you're
gonna-
saying, what are they saying, anywhere from,
well, we've seen, every year, we see 15 to 40%
yeah,
on these individual channels, individual.
and what we're hearing, it's gonna be definitely on the high end.
Yeah, it'll be in that range.
Move on to Department of Public Works, Unit 102, repairs.
So our dump truck number 102 needed repairs. The cost, the total cost of the repairs is $4,083.87. So we needed, we have to send it up to UP International for the repairs.
Any questions? If not, do I have a motion?
I move that UP International Trucks Incorporated be approved to repair the city dump truck number 102 for a cost not to exceed $4,083.87.
Support.
Mr. Marraro?
Yes.
Mr. Pop? Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Approval, Department of Public Works, Unit 131, repairs.
So our garbage truck has an emissions problem. It's probably pretty simple or similar, or it's an issue that we've run into with this unit because under the new emission standards and the way that the truck is used, we run into these emission problems. So we have the same issues we had with the dump truck. And by the way, I just want to mention that we are going to have to look at and start planning to get that dump truck in place. That's the second time we've had it in this year, this calendar year alone. So it's number 102. So we're gonna have to get together, figure out how maybe get that move along. But anyway, it's a garbage truck for 131. It's $1,351.72, and again, it's UP International.
We just buy the garbage truck?
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, but we got like 8 months before. We gotta get this on the road.
Oh, this is the old one. This is
Yeah.
the
This
one.
is
This is
the
the
new
new
one.
one.
No.
Yeah. Okay, I got you. Still waiting on that truck.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody blame that on COVID, right?
When this is being fixed, do we plan it around our pickup or how? Or do
No, we
have a backup?
We got a backup one.
That's what it leaves in get pick up that one because that was our big truck, the big dump truck.
The 102 was
102 is the,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
At least the garbage truck isn't on a barge in LA.
Right.
or worse, 150 miles off course.
Yeah, right.
Do I have a motion?
A motion that UP International Trucks Incorporated be approved to repair city garbage truck for a cost not to exceed $1,351.72.
Support.
Is that just a question? Is that the right? Or 50? Second page is handwritten 155747. Which one is the right one? Not to jump in, Jeff, sorry about that.
No worries.
1557.47.
And then you got another one on the actual service invoice of $1,485.47.
That's a subtotal,
There you go.
regular
So
total.
is it, yeah, is it the
72 of shop supplies was included on that.
Oh, it is. It's 1557.47. Good catch.
Thank you. Any motion?
We had a support on that. didn't
We did.
Good. Roll call.
we? Yeah. Roll call, Trish?
Mr. Pop? Mrs. Brew? Mr.
No.
Kramer?
No.
No.
Mr. Menegini?
No.
Mr. Mararo?
No.
Mr. Pop?
Did you say no, Scott? Oh, I didn't hear you. Okay. Do we have a new motion?
I motion that UP International Truck Incorporated be approved to repair city garbage truck number 131 for a cost not to exceed $1,557.47.
Mr. Pop? Yes. Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Ms. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Move on to approval electric department hydraulic tamper.
Started leaking hydraulic fluid pretty bad, so I took a lot of runs to have rebuilt, and he called back and advised that it's shot, so we're sticking it in 2018. So I got a couple of quotes, and Greenlee is the cheapest one I could find, and that is the exact same model that we currently have, which that tamper is quite old, so it's service years also. I would recommend going with Greenlee again.
What are you doing exactly with this?
It's for set poles, and we tamp the ground and around the pole. Right now, we're using a 2x4.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, do I have a motion?
Make a motion that the hydraulic tamper purchase from Greenlee be approved for a price not to exceed $1,736.50.
Support.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Sturgeon Falls Hydro cabin repairs.
Thank you. So we did some log replacement at the cabin, and during the repairs, the gentleman that was performing the repairs went around the cabin and did, I guess, a more thorough inspection, and came up with some recommendations. He would recommend that we put these in-call rods into any of the hardwood that's exposed, so even though the building is stained, that wood is always trying to absorb moisture, and these in-call rods react with water and actually petrify the wood. He also went on to say that he believes our cable lens need to be shaped. Right now, there's some kind of silicone gasket in there, but we would go on that to get that fixed, so that's close for bats and other insects to get in. And then also on some of the hardwood as well, he's gonna spray with some kind of borate, some another preservative that he recommends. So $1,850. I don't know if he'll get to it this fall anymore, but we get a couple of days where it's warm, we probably get shade the bugs and those not particularly true, it's actually still get done. It's great to do.
Yeah, I read what your report on that. I mean, if it's gonna preserve it better.
He told me that when he's wearing the in-call rods react with the water, it will actually turn the water into a rock. You can't cut through with a chainsaw. So it's pretty good stuff.
Note to self, don't build public buildings that we need to maintain.
It is a very nice building, though. I hate to see it go away. So
Yeah.
fast.
Oh, no, no.
And still well under budget.
Do I have a motion?
I move that B&R repair be approved for the Sturgeon Falls Hydro Log Cabin repairs for a price not to exceed $1,850.
Support.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Mr. Pop? Mrs. Brew?
Yes. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council on any item of interest, do so now at the podium. State your name and address for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. We'll move on to mayor council comments. Scott?
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out to Norway.
I'd like to congratulate the mayor again on another term,
Thank you.
and Scott for mayor pro tem. And then also thank the voters for coming out and voting for us. That was nice to see more, but, you know, it's good. Mr. Anderson, D Street Alley, do we have an explanation where we're at with that, or what we plan on doing with that?
Yeah, we got pretty held up this fall with, we had a number of water leaks. And with our regular maintenance work, we have not gotten to that portion of that new alley. Then there was a question that came up, and I wrote this out in a memo, packet, that a concern is that if we don't take that all the way back to Old Dale Drive, which actually we want to, instead, right now there's a 2-track that comes down the property line along the creek, and it comes off of the highway. And so I talked with the churches, and we should come straight across and connect up to Odell with that alley, so we're not coming off the highway. If we don't do that, there's an expectation if we put that alley in right now, as is, that we're gonna plow it. And we'd have to come plowing down a 2-track to get back into that alley. And so we have concern about that. We're not so concerned that it's dead end, because we do have a couple dead end areas. It's just that we really should get that all the way back to Odell in order to make it correct.
And do we have to go through any legal stuff to get to Odell Drive? I mean, it makes sense to me to go all the way back to Odell.
Yeah, we already have a good working relationship, and we've started a conversation with they're called Cornerstone Ministries that have properties. And we actually started a process of an agreement, because we're gonna be running an extension of Odell all the way to the south of the property, and we're gonna come across. And the DDA has actually been championing that project, and they're gonna pay for that project. Once the bond issue, their bond issue is up in 2024. So once that bond issue is up, then they were gonna take that project on. And so we've already started the process, but we'll have to come to an agreement with them. And then we would do, like, it's a reverse activity of vacating to accept right away. So we actually have to go through the process as well. So there's a couple of legal steps that we have, something that we could possibly do this winter and have it done for the spring. Yeah, I've already had a meeting with that group, and yeah, they're positive about it. They like the idea. They've been very helpful for us for our road traffic.
So we're moving forward just in the spring.
Yeah, just so it's not an expectation that it's going to be done yet again this fall, because again, I mean, even if we put it in, it won't take us long to put it in, but we don't have, it's not right to go down that 2-track, and really you don't want to be plowing that off the highway. That's just our recommendation. So, you know, if the council feels differently, we obviously want to know, but we want to make sure that we're doing what you guys want.
I think we just put it in the right way first time.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, and then I would also like to kind of say happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and we'll just try to remember the people in our lives and the people that are not in our lives, and around Thanksgiving and the holiday season. Thank you.
Jeff?
Echoing the words of Councilmember Pop and Councilmember Kramer, thanks to the voters for turning out and voting for us again. I do agree. I believe we have I don't know if it's a good council, but I know we seem to work well together, and I think we're getting good things done. Congratulations to Mayor Brew, and of course, new Mayor Pro Tem Scott Pop. Thanksgiving wishes to everyone. Hope everyone had a successful and safe fire and deer season going, and I know it's still going, and you know, just want to say go blue.
Rico?
No comment.
I have a few things. Congrats to Scott Pop, my new mayor pro temp. I also want to thank Brett Kramer for the last few years that, he has been my pro temp. It's a pleasure to work with them as that, and it's a pleasure to work with the council. I want to thank my council for the support they gave me through the years. Without them supporting me and being behind me, it would be a much harder job. And I want to thank them for, voting me back in and having me be the mayor again. I also want to, remind people that the Santa Parade is December 3rd.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. So mark that on your calendar. Santa and Mrs. Claus will be coming to town on December 3rd.
They have their permits.
They have their permits, yes. And, I also want to, tell everybody have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your families. And then I also would want to talk a little bit about, the city manager search. Since I'm getting, people are asking what's going on with that. I like to, tell them that it's not a fast process. And, we just want to make sure that we have the right fit for our community. And, we also will be re-advertising to put the search back out there. So I hope the town is patient with us because we're trying to do the best for the community and get the perfect fit in here for the community.
And I'd like to thank Mr. Anderson for being patient.
Yes.
Process.
Thanks, Ray.
Yes.
Also, real quick, Kenny, thoughts and prayers go to the city of Waukesha, Wisconsin. See that terrible tragedy at their Christmas parade yesterday. Thinking about.
I also want to bring up one more time, I know I already said it, but I really want to thank our staff with our audit. I want to thank Scott again for the years that he's put in here. He does a great job. I can't thank you enough. You've always been there for questions we've had. You explain it, so some things we might not understand or the community doesn't understand, but you put it out there in words that I feel like everybody can understand what's going on. Can't thank you enough. I can't thank our staff enough. Ray, thank you. And again, thank you, Mary. And I am very confident that Lisa will do just a fine job next year with the audit. That's all I have. Grant?
Nothing, thank you.
Ray?
I just want to congratulate the council members for the election and Mayor Brew, Mayor Pro Tem. Congratulations, and have a safe Thanksgiving.
Thanks to our number one attendee, City of Norway, Mary Spoke, for showing up again.
Tricia, Lisa, do you have anything? If not, I need a motion to adjourn.
Or
Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Moraro?
Yes.
Mr. Pop? Ms. Brew?
Yes,
Mr. Crane?
Yes.
meeting adjourned.
you want to go have a Thanksgiving break? No, you're gonna tell me. Don't you want to go have a Thanksgiving break? No. What's your name? Joel. Joey. That's what they call our boss. B-A-S-S.
Isn't it Joelle?
I think it's Joel.
Yeah.
Boss.
And then what?
It was yesterday. Sunday. Yeah.